Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a really influential book, Eric Ries' The Lean Startup.
Yeah, it's definitely one you hear mentioned a lot.
For sure. And you've probably heard the buzzwords, but, underneath, there's a really powerful way of thinking we want to unpack.
Absolutely. We're not just going to summarize it.
No way. We want to pull out the stuff you can actually use, like, right away. It's more than just a business book, isn't it? It's kind of a mindset shift.
Totally. And it's got some serious praise. People like Tim Brown from IDEO. He called it the roadmap for innovation.
Wow. And Steve Blank, he basically tells founders they have to read it.
He does. Even Noam Wasserman at Harvard said it's one of the best, most insightful books on entrepreneurship he's read.
Okay, so there's definitely something substantial here. High praise.
And what's really interesting is where it came from. It wasn't academic theory.
Right, Rise developed the stuff at IMVU, his own startup.
Exactly. He saw how traditional product development, well, it often just didn't work, led to failures.
So his mission, he actually states it, is to improve the success rate of new innovative products worldwide. Pretty ambitious.
Very ambitious, but born from a very practical problem he faced.
Okay, so let's cut through the buzz and get to the heart of it. What are the core ideas? Ries lays out 5 main principles.
Yeah, 5 principles that really form the foundation.
First one, entrepreneurs are everywhere. And he doesn't just mean Silicon Valley types in hoodies.
No, not at all. He defines a startup really broadly. It's any human institution designed to create new products and services under conditions of extreme uncertainty.
So basically, if you're trying something new and you don't really know how it's going to turn out, you're in startup mode. Could be in a garage, could be inside a huge company.
Exactly. It reframes innovation. It's about the situation that's uncertainty, not the job title or the building.
That makes sense. And that leads right into the second principle. Entrepreneurship is management.
Right. But not traditional management.
How so? What's the difference?
Well, traditional management often focuses on planning, executing that plan perfectly. Predictability is key.
But in a startup, things are anything but predictable.
Precisely. So you need a different kind of management, one suited for chaos, really.
Right.
Which brings us to number 3, validated learning.
Ah, yes, this feels central. It's not just about building stuff, it's about learning.
Learning what works. Ries says progress is measured by demonstrating empirically that a team has discovered valuable truths about a startup's present and future business prospects.
Empirically. So like with real evidence, not just gut feeling.
Exactly. Hard data, customer actions showing you're learning the right things. He calls it the antidote to achieving failure. Perfectly executing a plan that goes nowhere.
Ouch. Been there. Okay, so that empirical learning feeds the next principle.
It does. Number 4, build, measure, learn. This is the engine.
The famous loop.
The loop. You build something, a version of your idea. You measure how customers respond. You learn from that data.
And then decide what to do next. Keep going or change direction.
Right. Pivot or persevere. And the faster you spin through that loop, the faster you learn and adapt.
It sounds like the scientific method applied to business. Hypothesis, experiment, data, analysis.
Pretty much. And to make sure you're actually making progress with all this learning, there's the 5th principle, innovation accounting.
Okay, accounting usually makes my eyes glaze over, but this sounds different.
It is. It's not about traditional profit and loss in the early days. It's about tracking if your learning is translating into real business progress, setting milestones, running experiments, seeing if you're moving the right needles.
So holding the innovation process accountable, but with a different kind of scorecard, measuring what matters for learning and growth.
Exactly. Avoiding those vanity metrics, things that look good but don't actually mean the business is working, like total registered users if none of them are active.
Got it. Actionable metrics versus vanity metrics. So the book structures this as vision, steer, accelerate.
Yeah, vision is setting the overall direction. Steer is managing that build, measure, learn loop. Accelerate is about scaling things up once you've found something that works.
And our goal today is to pull out the practical stuff. How can you, listening right now, actually use these ideas, whether you're starting a company or just, trying a new project at work?
Yeah, moving beyond the theory. Think about any time you've worked on something where the path wasn't clear. These principles give you a framework to navigate that uncertainty.
Reduce the risk of pouring time and money down the drain. Okay, let's dive in. Let's start with that idea of entrepreneurial management and validated learning. How does that look different day to day?
Okay, imagine a big company launching a new feature. Traditionally, they might spend months planning, building, then have a big launch. Maybe they set a target, say 20% adoption in Q1.
And if they only hit 5%?
Traditionally. Seen as a failure, project might get killed. But under entrepreneurial management, that 5% isn't just failure, it's data.
Okay.
Uh,
Data about what?
Data suggesting maybe the feature isn't right, or maybe the early adopters who are using it can tell you something crucial. The manager's job is to dig into the why. Talk to those 5%. Observe them.
So failure becomes a learning opportunity. You reframe it.
Exactly. That 5% plus the qualitative insights might lead to a small change, a pivot that unlocks huge growth later. It's about learning, being the real progress metric.
And that's validated learning. Not just we talked to users, but we saw X behavior, which proves Y. Ries said it's more concrete, more accurate, and faster than market forecasting.
He did. At IMVU, they had these really small initial revenue goals. Even if they missed slightly, the focus wasn't just the number.
It was the why behind the number.
Yeah. They talk intensely with a few paying customers. When their data was flat, even after releasing new stuff they thought was great, those conversations showed where the real value disconnect was.
Which highlights that you can't just ask people what they want, right? Ries mentioned experimenting on customers more than just catering to whims.
Definitely. The IMVU 3D avatars example is perfect. People might say they want something in a focus group.
But what they actually do is the real test.
That's the gold. Do they use the feature? How often? That's the validated learning. So a key actionable insight here for you is focus on what customers do. Set measurable learning goals. What assumption are you testing? What data proves and disproves it?
That flows right into the build, measure, learn loop and the MVP, the minimum viable product. We hear MVP thrown around all the time. What makes it lean?
The key, according to Ries, is that an MVP is that version of the product that enables a full turn of the build, measure, learn loop with a minimum amount of effort. It's an experiment first, product second.
Minimum effort for maximum learning. Got it. It's about testing your biggest assumptions fast and cheap.
Exactly. Think about Kodak Gallery. They had this idea for event albums.
Okay.
They built a really basic prototype, just the core function, an MVP. What did they learn?
Let me guess. It wasn't what they expected.
Bingo. Users found it clunky to create albums. They didn't really engage. That quick experiment saved them potentially millions building out a feature nobody wanted in that form.
Smart. Avoided a big mistake with minimal cost. And Zappos is the classic MVP tale, isn't it?
The ultimate example. Nick Swinmurn didn't build warehouses or a fancy website.
He just took photos of shoes in local stores?
Yep, put them online. If someone bought a pair, he literally went to the store, bought them, and shipped them out himself.
Wow. That's bare bones.
Totally. But it tested the absolute core assumption. Would people buy shoes online? He got validated learning before investing big.
And the Village Laundry Service, VLS, did something similar. Started small.
Yeah, instead of building a laundromat, they started with a truck, then a mobile cart. They experimented with locations, services, prices, all super lean, learning directly from customers in the real world.
Even government agencies have thought this way. The CFPB.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, yeah. Reportedly, the idea was floated to start their hotline small, maybe just in one city, test the call volume, the types of problems people had, before a huge national rollout. Learn first, then scale.
These are great examples. So the actionable insight is crystal clear. Don't aim for the perfect, feature-complete product launch. Build the minimum needed to test your biggest risk.
Treat every release like an experiment. What are you trying to learn?
Okay, and the things you're trying to learn often relate to what Ries calls leap of faith assumptions, the big unknowns.
Right. Every business idea rests on these big assumptions that have to be true for it to work. Ries highlights two main ones.
Which are?
The value hypothesis and the growth hypothesis.
Value and growth. Okay, break those down.
Value hypothesis is, does this thing actually deliver value? Does it solve a real problem people care about? Growth hypothesis is, how will this spread? How will you get customers, and how will that grow?
So for early Facebook, lots of people spending lots of time on it validated the value.
Yep, high engagement.
And the fact it spread like wildfire across campuses without ads validated the growth hypothesis.
Exactly. Viral growth. Those early signals were crucial, showing both value and growth were working, even before it was a massive company.
And finding this out early requires talking to people. Getting out there.
Definitely. Steve Blank's famous get out of the building. You have to talk to potential customers, like Scott Cook did for Intuit.
What did he do?
Before building Quicken, he just cold called people and asked about their frustrations paying bills by hand. He wasn't selling anything yet.
He was validating the problem first. Is this pain point real and significant?
Precisely. Understand the customer's world before you try to sell them something. So the actionable insight. Write down your biggest value and growth assumptions, treat them like questions, not facts, then go talk to real people to test them.
Okay, so you have your assumptions, you need to test them. What kinds of MVPs can you use?
There's a whole spectrum. You could start super simple, like a smoke test. Maybe just an ad campaign describing the product before it exists. See if people click, if they sign up for a wait list. Gauges interest with zero product built.
Clever. Like the Dropbox video.
Exactly. They didn't have the full software working perfectly, but a simple video explaining the concept drove huge signups. It validated the need incredibly effectively.
Minimal effort, massive learning. What about a concierge MVP? Sounds fancy.
It just means you manually deliver the value proposition for early customers,
Well,
like food on the table.
what did they do?
Before building complex algorithms for personalized meal plans based on grocery sales, they manually created those plans for their first users. High touch, low tech.
So they learned what users actually wanted in a plan before automating it.
Exactly. Tested the whole model, learned nuances before writing tons of code.
And then there's the Wizard of Oz MVP, where it looks automated but isn't.
Right. Like early Zappos buying the shoes manually.
Hmm.
Or maybe food on the table behind the scenes. It looks like a seamless service, but humans are pulling the levers.
Yeah.
Lets you test the user experience without building everything.
So be creative with MVPs. Find the simplest way to get real data.
That's the insight. Quickest, cheapest way to validate or invalidate those core assumptions. Which leads back to making sense of the data you get.
Innovation accounting. Tracking progress beyond just, looking busy.
Or tracking vanity metrics that feel good but don't mean anything. Innovation accounting forces you to establish a baseline. Where are you starting?
Okay, measure your key metrics first.
Then, run your MVP experiments. Did the changes you made actually improve those key metrics? You're tuning the engine.
And if the metrics aren't improving significantly,
That's a sign you might be stuck in the land of the living dead. Positive metrics? Maybe, but no real growth, no traction. Innovation accounting helps you see that clearly.
so instead of just total downloads, you'd look at maybe activation rate or retention rate or referral rate, things that show real engagement.
Precisely. Metrics tied to your value and growth hypotheses. So the action here is implement this thinking early. Define your actionable metrics, track them, and use them to make honest assessments about your progress. Are you really learning and improving?
This data that informs that huge decision, pivot or persevere, stick with the plan or make a significant change.
It's maybe the hardest decision. And Ries is clear. The data informs, it doesn't dictate. Your vision, your judgment, they still matter hugely.
But the data helps you avoid just blindly pushing forward with something that isn't working.
Exactly. Reduces the odds of fatal perseverance. Vodafone is a great case study here.
They pivoted multiple times, right?
Several times. Started broad, social network for voting, but the data on registration, activation, retention, it wasn't great.
So what did they do?
They did a zoom-in pivot focused just on voter verification, a feature that showed promise. Then later, a platform pivot, making their tech available for others. Each move driven by learning from the metrics.
And Wealthfront pivoted too, from amateurs to professionals.
Yeah, they initially targeted everyday investors, but conversations and early data showed a stronger need among professional money managers. They pivoted the market, largely repurposing their existing tech.
So the pivot isn't always throwing everything away.
Often not. It's a structured course correction based on learning. The insight is, track those key metrics like a hawk. Be brutally honest. And be willing to pivot even if it means letting go of part of your original vision. Don't get stuck.
Okay, so you've maybe found something that works, you're persevering, or you've pivoted successfully. How do you speed things up, accelerate that learning loop?
Ries talks about the counterintuitive power of small batches.
Small batches, like doing less at once. How does that speed things up?
Think about stuffing envelopes.
Mm.
If you fold all 100 letters, then stuff all 100, then seal all 100, you only find out if the letters fit in the envelopes right at the end.
Ah, okay. If they don't fit, you've wasted folding 100 letters.
Exactly. But if you fold one, stuff one, seal one, you find the problem after the first envelope, you waste almost no time. Smaller batches mean faster feedback and less waste.
Like Toyota's lean manufacturing, the andon cord. Stop the line, fix the problem immediately.
Precisely. Quality built in, problems caught early. IMVU did this with software continuous deployment, multiple small changes going out daily with automated tests, much faster iteration.
And this isn't just software anymore, right? Hardware is iterating faster too.
Yeah, the line is blurring, rapid prototyping, 3D printing. You see faster cycles in electronics, cars, medical devices even, small batches, faster learning. The insight is break your work down, small chunks, frequent delivery, faster feedback loops.
And when problems inevitably pop up in these fast cycles,
Use the 5 whys.
keep asking why until you find the root cause.
Exactly. Don't just fix the symptom. Ask why it happened, then why that happened. Keep going, usually about 5 times, to find the underlying process or system issue.
Like the IMVU example where a build failed.
Yeah, why? Dependency missing? Why? Script didn't include it? Why? Dev forgot? Why? No checklist.
Ah.
The root cause is the lack of a checklist.
So the fix isn't just adding the dependency, it's creating the checklist.
Right, a proportional investment in fixing the root cause, the insight. Don't just patch problems. Use the 5 whys to understand the real issue and fix that.
Makes sense. Okay, as things grow, Riz talks about different engines of growth. What are those?
He focuses on 3 main ones: sticky, viral, and paid.
Sticky, viral, paid. Okay, tell me about sticky.
Sticky is all about retention, keeping the customers you have. If your churn rate is low, you don't need massive acquisition to grow steadily. Think subscription services, maybe?
Okay. Viral. That sounds obvious.
It's growth through users bringing in other users, word of mouth, referrals. The key metric is the viral coefficient. How many new users does each existing user bring in? If it's over 1, boom, exponential growth, like early Hotmail or Facebook.
And paid.
Paid growth is straightforward. You spend money to acquire customers, advertising, sales teams. The key here is making sure the lifetime value, LTV, of a customer is significantly higher than the cost per acquisition, CPA.
LTV, CPA. Got it. And you need to know which engine you're primarily using.
Absolutely, because it gets your focus. For a sticky engine, you obsess over churn and engagement. For viral, you build features that encourage sharing. For paid, you optimize ad spend and sales funnels. Using the wrong metrics for your engine leads you astray.
So the insight is identify your main growth engine and focus relentlessly on the metrics that drive that engine.
Nail it down.
Finally, what about big established companies? Can they really act like lean startups? Seems tough.
It is tough. Existing processes, culture, risk aversion, they all get in the way. But Ries argues it's possible, even necessary, for them to innovate.
How?
He suggests creating protected spaces, innovation sandboxes. Small teams given autonomy and permission to operate using lean principles, shielded from the usual corporate bureaucracy.
Like internal startups.
Kind of. Measured by validated learning, not immediate ROI. They also need different management for different phases. Someone great at exploring uncertainty might not be the best person to scale a proven product. Transparency is also key. No hidden black box innovation projects.
So for listeners in big companies, the actionable insight is try to carve out space for experimentation. Build a small sandbox team, protect them, and measure them on learning.
It's about fostering that entrepreneurial capability within the larger structure.
Wow. Okay, this has been incredibly insightful. We've covered a ton, from the core principles to really practical examples and actions.
Yeah, the core message really is about embracing that uncertainty, using experimentation, using validated learning as your compass.
It provides a framework, doesn't it, for making smarter choices, reducing that wasted effort, whether you're launching something totally new or trying to innovate inside a bigger ship.
Absolutely. It's not just about building more stuff faster. It's about learning what the right stuff is to build, guided by customers, guided by data.
Failing fast, learning constantly, and steering towards what actually works.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about one assumption you're making right now, in your job, a side project, whatever.
Just one assumption.
Just one. What's the absolute quickest, cheapest, simplest experiment you could possibly run, maybe even this week, to start testing if that assumption holds water?
That's a great challenge, a mini MVP for your own assumptions. Excellent. We definitely recommend picking up Eric Ries, The Lean Startup, if you want to go even deeper.
Agreed. It's worth a read.
Thanks so much for joining us on the deep dive.